folks, and welcome back to our weekly Sword Art Online discussion, and today we are talking about Alicization War of Underworld, Episode 12, Ray of Light, the mid-season finale to War of Underworld, and it also marks the final autumn season video that we'll be talking about here on the channel, so go ahead and take one last look at them beautiful autumn leaves, because the next time you see a video here on the channel, it's gonna be wintry as hell. But before we get into the video proper, I do have to give a big shout out to those of you who shared last week's video over on Twitter, at Bubblelubber and at Delight Crow. Thanks so much for sharing last week's video, you two, and a big thanks to all of you for sharing around the SAO videos, for watching the SAO videos. They're not particularly performing well on the channel, but that's okay, because I just love talking about this show. I do like to make fun of the show when it calls for it, but for the most part, I just really like SAO. Yes, it can be kind of goofy sometimes, but you know what? That's part of the charm, damn it, and I don't know. I'm always going to be happy to talk about it. With that said, allow me to apologize. I know that it did certainly take me a while to get to this week's SAO video, especially considering it's the mid-season finale. However, things were kind of chaotic on my end. We had the Kotatsu Annie Awards, it was New Year's, and I've been making videos nonstop every day for the last several months, I think basically almost half a year. So I just needed like a day to breathe for a little bit. The only thing I'm doing today on the day I'm recording this is just recording this video. So I just took a day to just kind of relax. I didn't edit and didn't do too much in terms of YouTube, just enjoyed myself, and I feel like that's important. And I gotta say, you know who is not enjoying themselves is the poor SOBs involved in the War of Underworld right now, because I gotta tell you, like, the beginning and the middle felt like a proper mid-season finale. It felt like a lot of stuff was really hitting the fan in big bad ways, and it really did feel like a war was brewing. This felt like the end of, like, a war to end all wars. It felt like the end of the world. It felt like the war for Underworld, if you will. Ho, ho, ho. And that's all because of Gabriel Miller's men deciding to bring in the American gamers, and it's, I love the fact that American gamers are like, they just appear in this world, they have like red armor, and they shout, "Kick their ass!" But like in English, it shouldn't be funny, because it's brutal what the Americans do to these AI, and that's not, by the way, like, don't make fun of the American gamers and like call them villains or anything. They're not aware, because again, we talked about this a little bit last week, that if you were like a gamer and you were told like, hey, there's this game, it's in beta right now, we just need some people to test it out, there's some AI, they're in the middle of a fight, you're gonna get dropped in, you just fight whoever you want, like you just cause chaos, and we just need somebody to beta test, we're just trying to break this game. You wouldn't assume that that's not the creators of the game and it is in fact some dude from like a military group trying to, like, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't assume that. So I don't really fault them for jumping in, even though like, I'm aware that it's a game. But if you're going in thinking it's a VR game and you have a character like Asuna literally screaming like, "Stop!" and like screaming and crying, and the violence feels that real and raw, like, I don't know, like, would you still, wouldn't you have a pause of like, man, that NPC seems very concerned about their life, in a way that normally most NPCs are not, so should I be concerned? Are these actually mobs, or are these just like or are these proper AI, like ground up AI, as people pointed out last week? You know what I mean? Like, it's a little bit like, ooh, should I be doing this? I don't know if I should be doing this. And then some other gamer just runs past you screaming, "Kick their ass!" Yeah, I don't know. I can't blame them. I do think for a little part of me is like, maybe they should know something's up, because it is a little bit sketchy, the message they got, but at the same time, a lot of these dudes are like hardcore gamers, so I don't necessarily blame them. Maybe they thought that they were being invited into the beta because they're super extra special, and let's be real, anytime you get invited to a beta, you get super hype, and it doesn't even matter what the game is, so I don't necessarily fault them for jumping in and not really thinking about it. And I gotta say, the Americans jumping in makes like, it's just a mess for both sides, right? Because both sides are getting involved in the conflict now, as these Red Knights just storm the battlefield, cutting folks down, both the Pugilists and the Integrity Knights troops, and it's all messed up. And it is a violent episode. Like this episode truly digs into the shocking brutality that this season of SAO is bringing. Now, we've seen SAO get violent, but not quite to this degree, right? We've seen violence in even like the first season of SAO during like the Aincrad arc and stuff like that. But even there, like a lot of stuff was digitized, like characters getting cut down. You'd see like those little like square, like, I don't know. It just felt less brutal because it felt more digital. It was still painful and like emotionally it's very brutal, the stuff from the Aincrad arc, and that emotional brutality is still here and alive and well in this week's mid-season finale. But I think, and this is the same thing I said when we first started the War of Underworld, when the walls first came down, when the walls broke down, the first time we saw how brutal this war was going to be. It shocked me then, and it still shocks me now. And I think it is just because instead of those little digital boxes that showed up in previous seasons, it's straight up blood, and it's straight up gory and brutal. Some things look a little bit silly because of the 3D CG that they're forced to use, given how many characters are on screen. But it doesn't really take away too much from the intense moments for me. Like seeing these troops get cut down, for a second, like you understand why Asuna gets so flustered. Because there's this moment where you're watching it where Asuna is watching the Americans cut down these AI, and what I felt from Asuna in that moment wasn't just like, oh, I have to stop them from hurting these AI. It's that these are the people that her boyfriend / I married this dude in a virtual reality, even though it was basically our reality. I'm not even going to get into the whole marriage thing. Some folks tried to tell me they weren't married. Side tangent. But she basically seeing these people who her significant other, will say, fought to protect and went straight up vegetable for these people, to see them get cut down, it hurt, seeing what his effort went to. The fact that they just get cut down by these random gamers who have no concept of what's actually going on. And so Asuna freaks the hell out, and you feel it in that moment because it is brutal watching them get cut down. Because at first I was like, when they first introduced them, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, but I didn't really feel anything. But because of how brutal it was, and because we have a character that we empathize with, like Asuna, it makes the situation seem a hell of a lot more dire. And Asuna getting cornered by those dudes was like scary. The fact that they like straight up cut off Best Girl's arm, like what is the matter with you, my guys? Relax. And this leads to easily one of the coolest moments, and that's the champion, le champion, aka Iskan, whose name I had to write down last week just because listen, when I make these little like notes, right, I write out the cast and crew. And this is the first time I think I've ever added another character whose name I didn't put into the cast, because the champion, the champion of the pugilists, Iskan, is far and away becoming the best boy of the arc. I thought Renly was gonna be best boy of the arc, but nah, it's a Le Champion, because this dude goes full Yu-Gi-Oh! And I mean like full Yu-Gi-Oh! Because he sees his men, and he sees his fellow like comrades, like he sees his men and women getting cut down by these dudes, and it burns him up inside, and he knows that they're dying for nothing. We've seen him slowly coming to grips with the fact that his fellow members of the pugilists, as well as just the entirety of the Dark Territory, are being cut down by the Integrity Knights, and like the Dark Lord Vectra doesn't give a shit about it, and that eats him up, and it's been eating at him. You can see it through the previous episodes how it's starting to wear on him, and it all finally comes to a head when he realizes like there's nothing he can do. He can't cross this. There's no bridge. He can't cross. He's watching his men go out, and you see the system error thing show up in the eye. And then it pops off. When I say pops off, I don't mean like, oh, and then action happens. I mean, no, this man literally digs his hands into his eye socket and rips the bitch out. That was gory, and your boy is relatively squeamish, so when I saw that, I was like, brutal. But he rips it out and then squishes his own eye in defiance of Gabriel Miller, aka Vectra, and that moment was so goddamn great. And then seeing him be like, you know what? Here's what's gonna happen, okay? I'm gonna get somebody who can make a bridge. And at first I'm thinking, like, what are you talking about? Like, there's nobody who can make a bridge that quick to get you guys across, like, immediately. Meanwhile, I'm like, oh, of course, Asuna. Like, as soon as he runs over to Asuna, I'm like, oh, okay, never mind, I'm stupid. But he crushes his own eyeball in his hand, and he charges up. And they even say, like, where are you gonna find somebody like that? He's like, well, if I can't cross the bridge, then if I can't cross this cavern, then I'll just jump the hell over it. And this dude uses, like, this dude uses basically Shinra from Fire Force powers, where he just, like, leaps up into the air, but it looks like he's not gonna make it. And his boy just grabs a big hunk of he grabs a piece of the earth. He just rips a piece of the earth out of the ground and throws it with the power of Zeus, and this dude loses his arm in the process. And he jumps off the rock and across, and it's just like, listen, once Iskan lands on the other side of the canyon, you get the exact reason that I love to watch SAO, and that's characters who I have some sort of emotional tether to, kicking ass, taking names in some awesome fight scenes. And that's all I ever really truly ask of SAO. SAO has a lot to offer, but when it comes to the anime, all I want is gimme cool characters kicking ass. That's all I ask for, and this episode so delivered. So delivered. Like, as soon as Iskan gets across, you see Iskan kicking ass, you see Sheita kicking ass, you see Renly, Berkuli, Alice, Asuna, everybody kicking ass, taking names. It is glorious. It is just glorious. And, like, it eventually does come to a head where Alice gets captured, which did make me roll my eyes because, like, of course. But she has to get captured in order to get the story going. Like, I get it. I get it, but at the same time, like, god damn it. Like, it was so clear as soon as she's like, I have to get to the mountain. I was like, even Berkuli says, like, no, little one, don't run off on your own. And then she does and gets captured immediately, and Berkuli's like, god damn it. Like, and the audience at home is thinking, god damn it. Because, like, Alice, you had one job. Like, you know he's after you. You had one job, stick to the group. But I guess not. But once Alice gets captured, our boy Iskan gets fired up, and he basically gives the we will not abandon Merry and Pippin to torment and death, not while we have strength left. Only replace Merry and Pippin with Alice, because that's basically what happens, is that he says, okay, listen, here's the plan. We told the Dark Lord that we were going to follow his orders, and he made it very clear that all he wants is to get Alice. So as far as we're concerned, we're done. So we're going to hold the fort here. You go get Alice back. You go get the Priestess of Light back. We'll hold the fort. We'll fight these soldiers here. And I love that Sheita stays behind, because, y'all, that's a pair right there. Like, as soon as they have that little banter back and forth when they're getting ready to fight the Americans, I was thinking, like, all right, I see you. And you guys may remember from the last time these characters met up, I was already kind of like, all right, I see you. This is kind of cute. And now I'm like, okay, this is more than cute. This is becoming like a B to A level ship right now. Like, it's a B level ship because I need to see a little bit more from them, but I am shipping it like FedEx. Like, these two together, they're cute, right? Like, I don't know, it's just cute, okay? Like, it's just cute. I like his like playful, excited nature, and she's a little bit more calm, a little bit more reserved, but she gives him that line, like, because he's like, are you sure about this, woman? And she's like, I'm pretty sure I told you my name. And he's like, all right, Sheita, I'm just saying. And I'm like, oh, he said her name. Okay. And she's like, bro, please. Like, I can still kick your ass. I can still run circles around you. Like, that little playful banter where she's like, you could pretend like you the badass, but really we all know that I'm the badass. And I'm like, I don't know, it's just cute as hell. I really like Sheita and Le Champion. Iskan a lot. I keep wanting to call him Iskander, but Iskan and Sheita, that's a OTP right there. Well, maybe not OTP. I don't want to go too far out. It's not quite there yet, but like, it's cute is what I'm trying to say. And unfortunately, we then cut back to the ocean turtle, which makes me roll my eyes because the ocean turtle stuff's so boring. But at the very least, this episode did what I would hope that they continue to do in the future, and that's that they keep the ocean turtle scenes brief. Like, we get the scene with the nerdy dude with the glasses, we see that Visego's still alive, which I did see some people be like, yeah, keep an eye on Visego. So I was like, really? Because I thought his mind would have short-circuited or something. Like, I thought that there was a little bit more danger in going into Underworld, since it wasn't like your typical VR MMO type thing. So I thought maybe dying would have more repercussions for the characters who are using like the full dive technology that we see on the ocean turtle. Like, maybe it would have a worse effect if you're not using the proper exits. I don't know, I guess not. It seemed to have rattled his brain to some degree, so maybe it gave him like some sort of like brief amnesia. I don't super know. I also don't know how he got there. Like, did somebody pick up Visego and carry him over to the nerdy guy? I don't know, and I guess it doesn't really matter, but it did make me kind of tilt my head. Visego being alive, I don't know, because I was thinking like, oh, it's kind of a waste. Like, when it looked like he died I think like 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh, it's kind of a waste. Like, he's not necessarily a compelling villain, but to kill him off that quick felt weird. So I'm on one hand, I am glad that he's alive, because I feel like they can maybe give him a more proper battle with Asuna. But at the same time, I'm sort of like, okay, how? And like, why was he beside the console? Like, why was he beside the computer? Like, I thought he was off somewhere with Gabriel, but I guess not. Maybe somebody lifted him over. Like I said, I don't know. The ocean turtle stuff is always sort of like, it just doesn't work as well, because the whole time you just want to get back to Underworld, at least for me. So the ocean turtle stuff I sort of had to roll my eyes at. But again, like I said, it was very brief, so I appreciate that. And it's thanks to that ocean turtle scene that we do learn what the new plan is, and that's that they have about 20,000 players just sitting in a queue waiting to beta test for, again, like some game that they're not aware of. And that made me go like, 20,000 people sitting in a queue for a game of which they are not familiar with. Okay. Like, okay. Suspension of disbelief, fine, whatever. Okay, let's pretend like there would be 20,000 people for some game that nobody's aware of. Like, fine, whatever. Let's pretend like that makes sense. And I mean, like, you know what? It's a weird future world where VR MMO games exist. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pretend like that's a thing that would happen. And we find out that the nerdy dude with the glasses has decided that he is going to send all 20,000 players directly on top of our group, trying to catch up to Gabriel Miller. And in this moment, Renly basically decides, like, all right, I'm leaving the rest up to you, and he flies off. And I was like, no. Okay, listen. I already lost one best boy. I cannot lose two. I lost Eldry a couple weeks ago. I refused to lose Renly. So I was like, no. Like, when I saw him getting ready to, as we say around here, make the sacrifice play the sacrifice card, I was getting all kinds of nervous. And then, descending from on high, comes Sinon, second best girl. And Sinon descending from the heavens, A, is dope as hell, and it looks fantastic. But B, if you've seen Dragon Ball Super Broly, I swear to God, she straight up does the Gogeta scene where he like does that big, I can't even remember what the move is called because it has an official name now. It's like Starburst something or other, like Star something. And it's this like she basically does the same move that Gogeta does. And I'm not knocking it. I mean to say, like, it looked fantastic. And it's all from one bow. Like, she pulls back this bow that launches all these different arrows, and she's like, oh, I can't launch multiple shots at once. It can only just be one. No big deal. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That was so dope. And she's like, there's no big deal. That's why I like Sinon, because she has that attitude of like, it's not a big deal. It's, you know, I just do this all the time. MBD. Meanwhile, you're like, that was awesome. Once again, SAO delivering to me all I want from it, and that is dope characters with some dope action. And that is, surprisingly enough, though, where we leave this season. It ends with Asuna and Sinon hugging, which did make me go like, do I ship this? I was not aware that I shipped this, but I mean, like, maybe it's like a bro TP thing, but I was feeling something there. I was like, oh, okay, anyway. Don't get me wrong, Kirito and Asuna is still the OTP, there is no beating them. But I was like, oh, I didn't even realize like that I liked Asuna hanging out with Sinon. You know what, it is more of a bro TP, but I like that relationship where the two of them are like, hey, we've both been through some shit together. Not so much together, but we've both been through shit, and we've formed a kinship through our past trauma, and she cares about Sinon cares about Asuna. It was a nice little moment, because again, we don't see a whole lot of scenes with those two specifically. So it was kind of cool to see the two of them hug it out and be like, hey, sorry it took so long. I'm like, oh, see, like, that's why I think it caught me off guard. Because I was like, oh, it's really sweet. I didn't realize I liked seeing those two on screen together as much as I apparently do. But yeah, it was really sweet. However, like I was saying, that is where we end the mid-season finale to War of Underworld. A little bit anticlimactic. We do get a post-credit scene with Sago walking somewhere, and he like drops a cigarette and he looks all menacing or whatever, but I mean, I can't say much about it because I don't know what the hell's coming up next because I don't read the books. But yeah, it was a little anticlimactic for what had been up until that point a really solid episode, and it was just sort of sudden. Like, I'm not saying it was bad, it was just a little anticlimactic. It just sort of like stops and you're like, oh, okay, I guess we're gonna stop here. I guess I'll see you in a few months then. And with that said, that is gonna be where we leave SAO, Alicization, War of Underworld for now. And I'm gonna give this episode a really strong B, a very strong B to a light A, but I'm gonna settle for a B, because again, it is a little anticlimactic. The ocean turtle stuff is a little there's some head scratchers in there, but for the most part, it's such a solid action piece, and it's just what I enjoy from SAO to a T. So I have to give it that solid B rating. I really enjoyed this mid-season finale. And that's gonna do it for today's video, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Before we go, as always, I have to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Ionos, Urza, Ginkotaku, Godzilla Fan, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Sukochi, Tristan, and Verdon. Thank you all so much for your continued support over on Patreon. It is so appreciated. And if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out the first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get over there, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. But with all that said, everybody, I am going to take off. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.